Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oranga Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Gauranga, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Harinama Sankirtan ki jai. All gloriously assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever it may be in your part of the world. Today we'll be continuing with our readings and discussion from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. But first of all, we will offer our humble obeisances to everybody. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvyevascha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. And we'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janabala, Giridharadhari. Gopi Janabala, Giridharadhari. Gopi Janabala, Giridharadhari. Gopi Janabala, Giridharadhari. Yasodhanandana, Rajajana, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana, Yamuna Tira, Yamuna Tira, Yamuna Tira, Vanachari. Yamuna Tira, Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astotar Satashri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shri Harirasa Thakur Ki Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Gangamaya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samadeva Bhaktivinda Ki Lord Chaitanya's Harinama Sankirtan Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Shri Gaurnitai Ki Shri Shamananda Prabhu ki, Agor Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Grand Gopal Baba, Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswate Devi, Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvisesha Sanyavari Pastachari Shata. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from the third canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, text number 21. If you have Srimad Bhagavatams with you, you can follow, or you can follow on the screen. Thank you, Rasika, for putting up the verse. This is another very famous verse from the third canto Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Lord Kapila Dev to his mother Devotee, who is making submissive inquiries as to how to become free from the sufferings, the bondage, the illusion, the entanglement of this material world, and what is the actual goal of life and how to attain that perfectional goal. So Lord Kapila Dev is now, you could say, introducing the essential feature of, say, achieving these purposes, and it is based upon the association of devotees. Just like if a person has some illness, generally speaking, they have to go for some medical treatment. But one has to also have some understanding as to the nature of those who are qualified to give medical treatment. What is their eligibility? So today's verse discusses a little bit about, maybe last week, we discussed the importance of association with saintly persons, the results of association in this material world with materialistic people, and the results of association with spiritual people. So it's a good idea, just like if we want to know who is a policeman, we need to have a little understanding of what is a policeman, what they look like, what their role is, and so on. So similarly, today we'll be hearing a little bit about the characteristics of a saintly person or the sadhu. Last time we heard we should associate with sadhus. So today, here we'll go into this wonderful verse. Please repeat. Titikshavaha Karunikaha Suridaha Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravaha Shantaha Sadavaha Sarubhushanaha. Titikshava Karunika Suridak Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravakshanta Sadavak Sarubhushanaha. Titikshava Karunika Suridak Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravakshanta Sadavak Sarubhushanaha. Let us go through the word for word because these words are very significant to understand. Titikshavaha, tolerant. Karunikaha, merciful. Suridaha, friendly. Karunika, merciful. Titikshava, tolerant. Sarvadehinam, all, sarva, dehinam, living entities. Ajata, shatravaha, inimical to none, no enemy. Shantaha, peaceful, shanti. Sadhavaha, abiding by scriptures, sadhava. Sadhu bhushanaha, adorned with sublime characteristics. And these are just some of the unlimited qualities of a devotee or a sadhu. Krishna has unlimited qualities. Some of them, prominent ones, are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. And as one gets closer to Krishna, as one's heart gets more and more closer to Krishna, then naturally the qualities of Krishna start to shine through more and more as the soul becomes purified. The translation of this verse: the symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemy. He's peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all of his characteristics are sublime. This is a real sadhu. Purport. Prabhupada says, a sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service to the Lord. That is his mercy, Karunika. He knows that without devotional service to the Lord, human life is spoiled. Therefore, the sadhu, as we could say, is the real friend of all. He knows a devotee travels all over the country from door to door preaching. Be Krishna conscious. Be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness. These are the preachings of a sadhu. He is not satisfied with his own liberation. He always thinks about others. He's the most compassionate personality toward all the fallen souls. One of his qualifications, therefore, is Karunika, great mercy to the fallen souls. While engaged in preaching work, he has to meet with so many opposing elements. And therefore, the sadhu or devotee of the Lord has to be very tolerant. Someone may ill-treat him because the conditioned souls are not prepared to receive the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. They do not like it. That is their disease. The sadhu has the thankless task of impressing upon them the importance of devotional service. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence. Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 marketplaces. And Lord Chaitanya's principal servant or assistant, Nityananda, was violently attacked by Jagai and Madhai. But still, they were tolerant because their mission was to deliver the fallen souls. One of the qualifications of a sadhu, that he is very tolerant and merciful to all the fallen souls. He's merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. He is not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society. It is said here, Sarvadehinam, which indicates all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Not only does the human being have a material body, but other living entities such as cats and dogs also have material bodies. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, the cats, the dogs, the trees, etc. He treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. Shivananda Sain, one of the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, gave liberation to a dog by treating the dog transcendentally. There are many instances where a dog got salvation by association with a sadhu, because a sadhu engages in the highest philanthropic activities for the benediction of all living entities. Yet although a sadhu is not inimical toward anyone, the world is so ungrateful that even a sadhu has many enemies. What is the difference between an enemy and a friend? It is a difference in behavior. A sadhu behaves with all conditioned souls for their ultimate relief from material entanglement. Therefore, no one can be more friendly than a sadhu in relieving a conditioned soul. A sadhu is calm, and he quietly and peacefully follows the principles of Scripture. A sadhu means one who follows the principles of Scripture, and at the same time is a devotee of the Lord. One who actually follows the principles of Scripture must be a devotee of God, because all the Shastras instruct us to obey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sadhu, therefore, means a follower of scriptural injunctions and a devotee of the Lord. All these characteristics are prominent in a devotee. A devotee develops all the good qualities of the demigods, whereas a non-devotee, even though academically qualified, has no actual good qualifications or good characteristics according to the standard of transcendental realization. End of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental purport. We can go back to the screen, Masika. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So this wonderful subject matter, which we're so fortunate to associate with today, what's happening is we're having the opportunity to associate with Sadhu, Srila Prabhupada, and all the other sadhus who give their association in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on. So we're going to try to, let's say, have two sessions on this verse. The obvious one would be that the first section of the purport, which is primarily dealing with Krunika, the merciful nature of the devotee, and how titikshava or tolerance also becomes an inseparable element in a devotee's life. It may not even be directly in the form of preaching to others, which naturally creates, in many cases, animosity amongst people because their materialistic plans are being challenged. And that happens within our hearts as well. We also sometimes reject when the sadhu gives us good instructions. We're attached to our particular condition, our particular concepts in life. We don't like it when they're challenged. But a sadhu has to face this in the course of preaching, and has to be very tolerant also, because this is inevitable. But their mood is one of Karunika. They're also a friend of all living entities. Surdam Savadehinam. They're a friend of all living beings. And how are they a friend? Not on the material platform, but on the spiritual platform. Because they see everyone as Krishna's servant. They see everyone as a spirit soul, basically speaking. And even if they don't see like that, they act like that. They follow that mood of the most elevated devotees. So that principle of, we could say, spreading Krishna consciousness can be applied to not just literally preaching the message of Krishna to others, but in our daily lives also. Every activity of such a sadhu is actually beneficial to all living entities. Their bhajan, their whatever they're doing in life, it is actually bringing, because they're watering the root. Their only purpose is to please Krishna. That's the primary characteristic. And today, we're going to be looking a little bit more onto that characteristic, which is not necessarily directly mentioned, although Prabhupada mentions by nature a sadhu is a devotee of the Lord. We're going to look more in that avenue today, the qualities of a devotee, specifically the primary quality of their unflinching devotion to the Lord. Today is it appearance or disappearance of Shyamananda?
Disappearance.
Disappearance day?
Mm-hmm.
I'm informed, I know it's the disappearance or the appearance, I don't know which, but it's Shyamananda Prabhu, who is one of the greatest preachers of Krishna consciousness.
disappearance.
Disappearance state, thank you, Mr. Tirobhav. So we're not going to start with that, but if Krishna allows, we'll work up to that, to share and to have a little opportunity to associate with these eternal associates of the Lord who come into this world, these real sadhus, who come into this world to give their association. I'm going to first of all start now with a little interesting description. I hope my computer assists me. Yes, okay, good. This is you could say a little bit off the mark of pure devotional service, but it's nonetheless a definition of what the term sadhu actually means in Sanskrit, according to the ancient Rig Veda, Atharva Veda. It means one who is going straight to the goal, literally, literal translation. That which is leading straight to the goal. Sadhu is leading straight to the goal. He's fixed in his goal. He's not just a person with a long beard, as Prabhupada said, in an orange robe with a big smiling face and telling nice stories, but he's actually leading us straight to the goal. No deviation, fixed in his resolve. And in other places, we see the term is mentioned to be, in other Vedic literatures, well-disposed, kind, willing, effective or efficient, peaceful, secure, good, virtuous, honorable, righteous, noble. These are dictionary definitions, Sanskrit dictionary definitions of sadhu. And elsewhere it says in other definitions, saint, sage, seer, holy man, virtuous, chaste, honest, or right. Prabhupada generally uses the term actually, a good man, and for females, at least in Sanskrit, the word is there, sadvi, which means good woman. In other words, what is good, materially speaking, is not exactly the same thing as necessarily that which is, let's say, the sadhu, the definition of good man, referring to as sadhu, because it will be adding all kinds. Although many of these qualities are also seen materially, straight to the goal, is another thing. Because they may have a goal, material goal for elevation, improvement of people's lives, etc. But that's mundane. That's not the real goal. That's just an artificial, temporary idea. But the sadhu knows the ultimate goal. And as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj would many times illustrate, that whatever it takes to release the living entity from their bondage, almost like cutting out a boil with a knife. It's quite painful. Sometimes it's like that. Although generally the sadhus try to change people's hearts in a very palatable way, sometimes it has to be a little bit more severe, you could say. Their intention is somehow or another to release the living entity from their bondage in this world and their illusion of identification, and help them by various means to start to identify with Krishna, to serve Krishna, and thus consequently, as we saw in the previous verse, by such association, by such service, one becomes free. But that we'll be discussing in another talk. One of the verses downline describes that a little bit more extensively. So the word sadhu also has a Sanskrit root, sad, S-A-D-H, H-da, which means reaching one's goal. So their business is to not only themselves, the very word sadhana also has the same root, the process which is meant to help us reach the goal. So if we know what the goal is, then we should apply the sadhana. It's the same logic we could apply to just about anything in our lives. Any work that we do, any medicine that we take, food that we eat, education, so many things follow the same principle. We have a goal to achieve by doing it, and there's a process to achieve the goal. And that is called sadhana, practice specifically in regards to the ultimate goal of reaching the spiritual platform, pure platform. So that is called sadhana, the practice of reaching one's goal. So the sadhu, reach one's goal, is one who gives us the process to reach the goal of life. because they have that goal. They know the goal, and they know the means to attain the goal. So in this age, we all have heard many times that the process of reaching that goal is Harinam Sankirtan, but that will be for the second part of our endeavor to receive the mercy of the sadhus by imbibing these principles in our lives. Is by taking these things on board that we get their mercy. It's not just by knowing them. It's actually by when we apply them in our hearts. Then the sadhus are very pleased with us when they see the effect of applying these processes in our heart. There will be a change of heart. It doesn't necessarily happen immediately. It gradually evolves as one associates with a sadhu and applies the sadhu's instructions in our lives. Our hearts gradually become purified. Our consciousness becomes purified. And the sublime, the sadhu bhushana qualities of a Vaishnava start to manifest. They start to shine in that person's naturally. It's not an imposition. Sometimes devotees ask this question, which comes first, surrender to Krishna or the qualities? And it's actually both go on simultaneously, accordingly. It's not that we reject an effort to be tolerant, or we reject an effort to be a friend to others, saying, oh, when I'm a pure devotee, they will come right now, I'll just be whatever nonsense I am, and just say I'm a devotee of Krishna. No, both go on. It's part of the process to practice sadhana, include certain activities which will automatically incorporate the principle of mercy, titiksha, karunika, friendship to other living entities, and all the other qualities will be included in the process of sadhana. But the actual natural awakening, the pure awakening of heart, will take some time to manifest until the soul is cleared of all the inebriaties, all the dirt within the heart. So a sadhu can also be, for one who's following a real sadhu, one is also can be called a sadhu if one's actually applying the sadhana, which one receives from a sadhu in one's life sincerely. One may also be a sadhu. Literally means one who practices a sadhana or a path of spiritual discipline. As Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, a sadhu never finds fault in others. This is one of his prime definitions of a sadhu, is that he never finds fault in others. He respects whatever, and this is interesting. One time, I'll mention this first. Srila Prabhupada one time, Tamal Krishna Goswami one time was asked, what was of all the qualities of Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada has all the qualities of a sadhu, which quality was the most, to you, most prominent? What captured your attention? And devotees say how Prabhupada was so merciful, so tolerant, so friend to all, and so on and so forth. We may say all these different qualities, how he was, and so on and so forth. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj said that the quality which struck him most was Prabhupada's ability to find a good quality, something in every single person. He saw a good quality there in everybody and was able to bring that quality out in even the most covered beings. That's what he felt. Sometimes we just see good qualities according to our conditioning. And very easily we see bad qualities according to our conditioning in others. But Prabhupada was able to extract, or let's say encourage, those good qualities in every living entity, encourage them to connect that quality with Krishna, and thus gradually become purified. He respects, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, whatever little qualities are there in others. In one lecture in Mombasa in 1971, Srila Prabhupada said, those who are engaged in the service of Krishna, he is sadhu. It is not simply by changing dress. Sadhu means sadhava sadhubhushana. Sadhu means honest, sadachari, of good quality, good character. But the ultimate aim is, as Krishna recommends, apichet sudarasharo bhajate mam ananyapam. I'm going to need you. Not that one has to adopt all these sadhachara. That is secondary. But if one is staunchly devoted to Krishna, he is sadhu. That staunch devotion to Krishna. Well, we did discuss that recently. We're not going to go down there again. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:30, although other seemingly disqualifications may be there, shortcomings in the practice of a sadhu, if that unflinching dedication to the service of Guru and Gauranga is there, he's still considered sadhu. Not exactly that he has to observe, Prabhupada goes on, not exactly that he has to observe all the rules and regulations, because by practice, just like these European and American students, sometimes they cannot adopt the principles of sadhachara as it is recommended. But that doesn't matter, because they are devoted, they have sacrificed their life for Krishna. They are sadhu. One has to, something instinct probably could be. They should be given the respect of a sadhu, because they have no other business than Krishna. That is recommended from Krishna. So this Krishna Consciousness Society is a society of sadhus. Sangena sadhu bhaktanam, ishvara danena. That was a lecture of Srila Prabhupada in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. A very good foundation of our subject today. We're just going to refer now to a verse which Prabhupada, or go to a verse which Prabhupada referred to in purport. Right at the end there, he described how all the good qualities of the sadhus or suras develop in one who has taken shelter of a sadhu or is engaged in devotional service. Now, some of you may be familiar with this verse. It's from the 5th canto, 18th chapter, text number 12. And in fact, we would have gone on to this the other day. It would have been the next verse, maybe a month ago, that we would have covered, but it's being covered today. And this is a verse spoken by the residents of Harivarsh, Prahlad Maharaj, and the other residents in their worship of Lord Hari, or Lord Nrsimhadev. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvaganais tattva samasata sura hara bhaktasya kato mahatguna manovatena sati davato vehi. And the translation to this verse is, all the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation become manifested in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? Of course, sometimes people will argue, well, I see better qualities in the normal people than I do see in these devotees. So-called devotees. Sometimes people say like that. And sometimes we would say like that. Because we're still seeing qualities of a material nature, material qualities within the modes of nature. What are the use, in one translation to this verse, Prabhupada says, even if they appear to have good qualities, at least from a material perspective, what's the use of those qualities? What is the use? It doesn't help anyone get free from suffering, ultimately. It doesn't awaken anyone's Krishna consciousness, just having materially good qualities. Even if one's very austere, even if one is practicing all the various, even following the Vedas, if it doesn't lead to devotion to Krishna, what's the use? What's the use of those qualities? It's like having money, but there's nothing to, what's the use of it if you don't use it? If you can't purchase anything with it? It has no value. It's just a mental, on the mental plane, as this verse says. One's simply hovering on a mental plane. So people think that they're getting some benefit out of utilizing all these things. But ultimately, there's no real benefit. It's just moving around in the samsara cycle, or most gaining liberation. But what's the ultimate use of that if it doesn't have a loving relationship with Krishna, at least from the Vaishnav's point of view. It's a waste of time. Simply a waste of time. In the purport of that verse which we just heard, there's at the end of the purport, I don't know which way Rasikananda Prabhu got it, but we have, Prabhupada mentions 26 qualities of the Vaishnava. Can we show that? 26 qualities, Rasika? The 26 qualities of the Vaishnava. You do have it, I know. And here they are. Oh, that's a nice picture of Srila Prabhupada. Can everyone see the pictures? These pictures of Srila Prabhupada are very unique. They're pictures of Prabhupada at Bhaktivedanta Manor, especially the one on the right. This Prabhupada, how he's so kind. This little girl was a daughter of Swati, one wonderful devotee. No, not Swati, his daughter. Anyway, she's one of the little girls there at Bhaktivedanta Manor. And Prabhupada would play with the children on the lawn there. And very sweet pastime. So this is the 26 qualities there of a sadhu, or no, of a devotee. 26 qualities of a devotee. When we first came to the temple, these 26 qualities will be pasted on almost every door to remind us. It helps us when we remember how a devotee is supposed to behave. It helps us to control our senses. We may not naturally have these qualities, but if we know what they are, we can sometimes apply them in our lives in a way that will actually help us as part of our sadhana. Part of our sadhana. So we used to have this, and it's one of my main memories when first day I stayed in the temple, when I was sitting in the toilet, there they were on the wall. When you're taking a shower, there they were on the wall. And they're on almost every door. He is very kind to everyone. He does not make anyone his enemy. He is truthful. He is equal to everyone. No one can find any fault in him. He is magnanimous. He is mild. He is always clean. He is without possessions. He works for everyone's benefit. He is very peaceful. He is always surrendered to Krishna. He has no material desires. He is very meek. He is steady. He controls his senses. He does not eat more than required. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. He offers respect to everyone. He does not desire any respect for himself. He is very grave. He is peaceful. He is friendly. He is poetic. He is expert. And he is silent. These are the 26 qualities of a devotee. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, originally by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He lists these 26 qualities of a devotee. And of course, this is not exclusive. There are so many other qualities. They're unlimited, practically speaking. The devotee is a reservoir of good qualities. So we can go back to the screen now, because that's the subject in itself. To go through even one of those subjects is a whole session in itself, practically speaking. Just to give us an indication, something to meditate on, something to think about, something to apply. Maybe you can do that. Print those qualities out. You can find them, and if you can't find them, ask another devotee to help you find them. But they are there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in other places. These 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. I'm going to go now to. We could read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita where these qualities are actually listed. I'll give you the reference. I'll make it easy for you. These qualities are found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 22, Madhya Lila. Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 78 to 80. You can find these qualities. Okay? If anyone wants to find them and do your own little, application, you're most welcome. Previous to that, in text 75, actually, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving his instructions, these fall within the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. And Lord says, a Vaishnava, now the word Vaishnava is synonymous with sadhu. A Vaishnava is one who has developed all good transcendental qualities. All the good qualities of Krishna gradually develop in Krishna's devotees. All the good qualities of Krishna gradually develop in Krishna's devotees. Of course, those who are coming from the spiritual realm are already reservoirs of these good qualities, and by associating with such great personalities who are reservoirs, one can obtain they're already there in the nature of the pure soul. These qualities are the nature, constitutionally, the nature of the purified soul. They awaken in the association of pure devotees. It's a very simple, logical understanding of how they can be awoken by hearing from pure devotees, by serving pure devotees, by hearing about pure devotees, etc. These qualities gradually awaken within our hearts as we become purified. Lord Chaitanya actually quoted the 2, 3, 4 verses that we just mentioned. And the very verse that we're studying today is in this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, as well as the verse we studied previously, Mahat Sevandwar Mahurali Mukte Tamodwar Malushitam Sangi Sangam, is also in this section. And what is the root cause of devotional service? And the Lord said, it is association with advanced devotees. So that is the root cause of the awakening of these qualities, or we could say the awakening of actual devotional service itself. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. And the whole section of the 22nd chapter of the Madhya Lila, dealing with the absolute necessity of association with devotees if we want to progress in spiritual life. We've already discussed the nature of that association, so we won't go there again today. But we will now go to Bhagavad Gita. And most of you will probably have the Gita, because unfortunately it's we don't have all these things on the screen, but it wouldn't be much to get them on there. This is from the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And we're going to read from text 13 onwards, from the 12th chapter. In the Bhagavad Gita, there are a few places where Arjuna wants to know what are the characteristics of those who are transcendently situated. You can find those in the 2nd chapter, and you'll find them also in other chapters. In the 16th chapter, the characteristics of those who are divine. We're not going to read those today. We're going to read from the 12th chapter, and this is from text number 13 onwards. How Krishna describes those who are dear to him. Krishna says, one who is not envious is a very important characteristic. The whole Bhagavatam itself is spoken to those who are Saranam Satam, those who are not envious. So here the first thing Krishna says is those who are not envious. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, cannot be explained to those who are envious. Those who are not engaged in devotional service, those who are not my devotees. It doesn't mean, what it means is they cannot really, as long as we're not engaged in devotional service, as long as we're envious, we can't understand it, even if it's there. We may repeat the words, but we haven't entered into the understanding. That is the understanding of the confidentiality of the Bhagavad Gita, not the actual words themselves, but the realization, the understanding of the message. That is confidential. That is only revealed to those who are devotees, those who have a friendly disposition towards the Lord. So that can be awoken by association with those who do have that disposition. So Krishna starts off by saying, one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. He who no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and auspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, make me the supreme goal, sadhu, are very, very dear to me. So these are the qualities which Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, which are very dear to him. And that is the principle of devotional service, is that we're trying to become dear to Krishna, not to some other living entities. That will come automatically if we're dear to Krishna. Those who are actually genuine, they will appreciate that. Others may or may not appreciate it. Of course, Prabhupada did say that a devotee of Vaishnava should be a gentleman. One time Prabhupada said that's the first symptom of a Vaishnava, that he is a gentleman. And even in his dealings in worldly affairs, a Vaishnava deals with, you could say, conscious respect for other living entities. Why? Well, not only because it's natural, it is also a characteristic of a Vaishnava that he wants to encourage others in their progress in spiritual life. Persons who are on the material bodily platform of life cannot relate to spiritual characteristics. They cannot understand anything about higher principles. So a sadhu, he acts in a way which will help others to encourage others to become attracted knowingly or unknowingly to Krishna consciousness. By, even if it seems to be mundane, the sadhu's business is just like Sanatana Goswami. He would go around in Vrindavan and he would discuss with other householders, how are you? How is your family? How is your business? He would encourage them, and he would give some spiritual inspirations. Then he would relate to them in a way which they could catch, and then they would become attracted. The behavior of a devotee. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Mathura, at one time on his way to, just before he entered Vrindavan, he stayed at the house of one Brahmin there, who was so ecstatic in the association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya was astonished. Why, how is this Brahmin so ecstatic? He's manifesting symptoms of love of God. Where have you got this? And the Brahmin explained that previously he had the association of Madhavendra Puri. And of course, Lord Chaitanya immediately understood where from those ecstatic symptoms were manifesting, because he had the association of the divine form of Madhavendra Puri. Lord Chaitanya then explained, quoting Madhavendra Puri, that religious principles were established by the behavior of a devotee. Whatever they are, just like we see Prabhupada mentioned Jesus Christ in the purport today. At different time and circumstances, he revealed what was acceptable, what was appropriate to the people he was preaching to. It may not be appropriate in a different situation. People may be in a less or higher form of state of consciousness, but for the people he was preaching to, consequently many people in Kali Yuga, his teachings are relevant, and if people follow them, they're following a sadhu, they can gradually become purified, but we have to follow the teaching, otherwise it won't work. sadhana. So the great devotees, they do like that, according to what will help people to come to Krishna consciousness. Now we're going to go in a slightly, let's say, personalized form now, because today is the Tirobhava of Shamananda Prabhu. So I thought I would try to share a little bit, whatever Krishna reveals within or reminds us within our hearts. It's not a revelation, it's just a reminding. Krishna is in the heart of all living entities, giving knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness. Whatever he wants, it's up to him. And I hope I don't speculate too much, because there are different versions of the devotees' lives. You know, because some of them are very esoteric; they're not visible to normal eyes. Some of the esoteric aspects, particularly, there are different angles or different, let's say, accounts of those esoteric aspects, but the principle remains the same, and the externals are in unison. So anyway, Shamananda Prabhu. We're not talking about one of our members who may well be online right now. We're talking about this great devotee who appeared in this world, maybe it's described in the biography anyway, approximately a year after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure. So he never had the physical direct association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he had the association of some of Lord Chaitanya's associates, many of them. So he appeared in what is now Orissa, which I think at that time was part of Bengal, but at that time it was but now it's part of Orissa area, Odia. So he appeared there in a family of devotees of Krishna, and as a child he automatically showed symptoms of devotion. He was only interested in devotional subject matters. The eternal Lord. He's one of the manjaris, Kanaka Manjari in the spiritual world, who appears in this world to fulfill the Lord's desires, to help others to become Krishna conscious, etc. And he was always eager for spiritual life. He was a genius, child prodigy, they say. You know, he was everything he did was, you know, very expert. So then, at a certain point of time, his father wanted him to be initiated by a Vaishnava. And young Shamananda, actually he wasn't called Shamananda then. It so happened that his parents had many children, but all the children had died, and they were very sad. So when Shamananda was born, he was a young baby then, they were so sad they gave him the name Dukeya. They gave him the name, you know, they were so sad. They gave him a name which means basically sad. Dukkha, suffering or sadness. Not the kind of name you would normally give, but he got that name. So when at a certain time when his parents wanted to initiate, he said, I know who my spiritual master is, and I will go there. He knew exactly who his spiritual master was. He said, my spiritual master's name is Hridaya Chaitanya, and he lives in Ambika Kalam, and I will only accept initiation from him. He never met him, but he already knew who his spiritual guru was. So they said, how will you take initiation from him? He lives a long way away. There were no trains and planes in those days. They said, I will go there. Many people are going to Navadvip for pilgrimage. It's on the way. I will go there. So he set off. He actually, a young man, teenager maybe, set off on the way towards Ambika Kalam. When he reached Ambika Kalam, he went to the temple. There, the temple there, Gauridas Pandit, he was still alive at the time, and Gauridas Pandit was the spiritual master of Hridaya Chaitanya. And he approached the temple on the outside of the temple, paid his obeisances there, and as he's paying his obeisances, one saintly person comes by, and it happens to be Hridaya Chaitanya. And immediately, Dukiya immediately recognized this is my guru and fell down at his feet, begging for his shelter. And Hridaya Chaitanya said, I knew within someone was coming today, and I will have to give you shelter. So immediately he took shelter of Hridaya Chaitanya and became his disciple, even though Gauridas Pandit was still present on the planet. One example. So then he stayed there under the shelter of Hridaya Chaitanya, relishing the association here in Krishna Kirtan, etc., etc. But Vitai Chaitanya was so inspired and impressed by this new disciple. He gave him the name Dukhi Krishnadas. He kept the name Dukhi, but he added Krishnadas there, so it's now Dukhi Krishnadas. And the Vaishnavas, there were messages going back and forth between Bengal and Vrindavan, and all the Vaishnavas knew that Jiva Goswami was now the head of the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, because the other Goswamis had passed, moved away, they'd left the world. So Jiva Goswami was very young compared to the other Goswamis. And now he was the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas there. He was also known as the greatest scholar. And Prabhupada also described him as the greatest philosopher who ever lived. So Vitai Chaitanya thought it was a good idea to send his prime disciple to take guidance and teaching from Jiva Goswami. So he sent him to Vrindavan, having obtained permission from Jiva, and asking Jiva to please return him back as soon as whatever education is finished. So consequently, he went to Vrindavan and took shelter under Jiva Goswami as Jiva Goswami's Siksha disciple. It's interesting to note that Jiva Goswami had no Diksha disciples at all, not one. He only had Siksha disciples. And amongst them, 3 prominent ones. There are many, but the 3 prominent ones, Shyamananda became one of them. And of course, Narottam Das and Srinivas were the other 2. Together, the 3 of them were studying, as well as many others, in a Attal, or the school of Jiva Goswami. So years went by, and Jiva Goswami was engaged, time went by. And Shyamananda asked Jiva Goswami, could he give him a specific service, a special service? So Jiva Goswami gave him, okay, you have a special service. Now, listen carefully, because the special service is not something we would think very highly of. Yes, your special service is you can sweep the arena of the Rasa Stala, the place where, of course, we would spiritually think this is the highest service, but materially speaking, people think, what is this special service? Sweeping the dust on the floor. Is that a special service? We'll think some special service. Oh, we have to do something big and famous so that we'll become, something extraordinarily known to others. But no, you go to the Rasastali, where Seva Kunj was much bigger in those days. It covered the whole area. Now it's a little area tucked away behind the wall. But it was the whole area in those days. So a section of Seva Kunj, known as Kanaka Kunj, you sweep that area daily, sweeping carefully. So he was doing it in ecstasy. And Dukhi Krishnadas was sweeping and sweeping, and he was feeling such exaltation, such ecstasy, sweeping the Kunj where the Rasastali had taken place in previous, when Krishna and the gopis, it still goes on in an unseen way, but he was getting this tremendous ecstasy in the service was given to him by Jiva Goswami. One day, whilst he was sweeping the Kunj, he saw something very effulgent in the earth, in the dust. He looked closely. Oh, what is this? It was an anklet. Like ladies, they wear these bracelets around their ankles. And he picked it up. It was very special. He touched it to his head. It was so effulgent. And there are different stories what happened next. Who would tell one of them? So what is this? Some say he hid it in his cloth, tied it to his cloth. Others say he dug it in the ground. He used a spade, dug it in the ground, and put this anklet, hid there, and said, I will keep this safe until the owner of this anklet appears. I will only give it to the owner. So consequently, he then carried on sweeping. Sometime later, an incredibly effulgent-looking lady appeared on the scene. Because what had happened on the spiritual plane, that I was surprised that what happened is that one of Radharani's anklets had disappeared from her feet. Where has it gone, Lalita said. Oh, it must have fallen off when we were engaged in a Leela last night in Kanaka Kunj. Oh, what shall we do? We have to find it. So Lalita Devi said, don't worry, I will go down and I will find it. So she appeared in a hidden form, like little elderly, before Shamananda. And Shamananda, or Duki Krishna at that time, saw this amazing personality. And he said, oh, oh, who are you? She described, she's elderly Gopi living in the area. He said, why have you come here? She said, my daughter-in-law has lost her anklet and I've come here to find it. Well, last night while picking flowers, it must have fallen off. He said, oh, where are you from? A nearby village? They were questioning each other like this. Then she said, have you seen an anklet anywhere here? And he said, indeed, I have. Please, will you give it to me so I can return it to my daughter-in-law? No, I will only give it to the owner, Dookie said. And there are different stories here, whatever it is, we'll jump through that one. But she said, all right then. And in this particular story, it goes that she called, but first of all, if you want to see the owner, you cannot see the owner in this body. She quickly transported him to Radhakund, and he bathed in Radhakund and assumed a female form in his eternal form of Kanakamanjari. And suddenly he saw himself in the presence of Srimati Radharani, the owner of the anklet. And then Radharani was very pleased with him. He was swooning in ecstatic submission and love. And she was so pleased with Dukhi Krishna Das that she initiated. Some say Lalita, some stories say Radharani. But somehow or another, he was there and then initiating into his spiritual form as Kanakamanjari, and she took that very anklet and placed it on his forehead, and suddenly the normal Vaishnav tilak of Gaudiyas became a different tilak. It's called a Shamanandi tilak, kind of thicker and redder, going up his forehead. And she said, this is now a permanent mark of your surrender, your devotion, your love. And she also gave him a name. Your name is Shamananda. And then he returned to external consciousness in the groves of Vrindavan. Returning to his Siksha Guru, Jiva Goswami was astonished to see this new tilak on his forehead. Shamananda, who is now known as Shamananda, explained the whole story, and Jiva Goswami said, don't tell it to anyone else, but from now on your name is Shamananda. Your name is Shamananda. So news of this, of course, spreads. The news went to Ambika Khan, and there Hridaya Chaitanya got this message that your disciple now has a new name and is wearing new tilak. Hridaya Chaitanya was a little taken back. What is this? I sent him to Jiva Goswami. Has he given him a new name? Has he reinitiated him? He sent a message. The message came back saying, no, that's not a fact, Jiva said. I have not initiated him. Then how is it possible? And the message came back from Shamananda. This is all by your mercy. Hridaya said, I have not. What mercy is he talking about? He said, in the message said, in a dream, this was revealed to me. What is this nonsense? Dreams? We don't believe in dreams. I have no recollection of appearing before Dukhi Krishnadas in a dream and giving him new tilak and a new name. What nonsense is this? And he called all monks from Ambika Khan and said, look, we have to go there and sort this out. This is a serious deviation from Vaishnava behavior. This has to be settled. So they all marched off to Vrindavan, and with the intention of getting to the root of this. What is my disciple or Jiva Goswami? Something going wrong here. So they all went off to Vrindavan, and consequently they met with Jiva Goswami. They were sure it wasn't his doing, and then they approached Shamananda and said, what is this? How dare you do this? And the spiritual master Hridaya Chaitanya was quite angry because the point was based on a very high level principle. Because Hridaya Chaitanya and Gauridas, they are Gopalas. They are in the mood of Sakyaras, loving friendship in the spiritual world. And generally speaking, everyone in their line is in the mood of Sakyaras. And now here's this disciple who's gone off associating with Jiva Goswami, and now he's developing a different relationship with Krishna. What is this? You know, you're talking about Madhurya Ras and this and that. And Vidya Chaitanya was quite taken aback. You know, Shyamananda tried to reason that all the various rasas culminate in Madhurya Ras. In fact, even Sakya Ras is to facilitate or to enhance the Madhurya Ras, but he wasn't happy with that. And he said, look, I will prove you wrong. And all the Mahants were there. The Mahants are like, you know, spiritual heads, leaders, educated elders of society. And he said, I'll prove you wrong. This is a falsity. You are false, he said. He was getting on his disciples' case. He said, I will scrub this tilak off you, and I will write Shamanand on your chest and scrub that off as well. So got a strong challenge. So Vidya Chaitanya, Shamananda Prabhu, he was thinking, okay, what can I do? I don't want to. It's all by your mercy, Gurudev. I promise you. My mercy were to prove you false. Purposely, this was going on by the arrangement of the Lord, no doubt. And so then Shyamananda went into a kind of trance. He said, can you give me a little time just to meditate on how to respond to this? And he went into internal meditation. He suddenly found himself back in the association of Srimati Radharani, Lalita Devi, and the other associates of the spiritual realm. And there she was Kanaka Manjari, crying and crying. I have a great dilemma. What can I do? My spiritual master is not accepting. I cannot offend him. He's my life and soul. So Radharani then called Subal. Subal came on the spot. Subal is the head of the Gopas, who are the coward boys, who interacts with the gopis in messaging and so on and so forth to enhance the pastimes. So Subal appeared on the scene and said, don't worry. Yes, he heard the story. Don't worry, I will solve this. Because Subal in Gaur Lila is Gauridas Pandit. So he said, I will solve this, do not worry. You go back now, everything will be all right. Just say this by the mercy of Gauridas Pandit. So consequently, and I will see that these marks on you will not disappear. So he did. He was returned back to the earthly plane, so to speak. And with the calm, he said, just think of me, Subal said. Just meditate on me and all will be fine. So Kanaka Manjari or Shamananda returned to this spiritual, to the realm, this material realm. And there he was again. He came out of his deep trance. So what is the situation now? All right, I will prove you false, Vidya Chaitanya said. So that's the Mahants, they wrote Shamananda across his chest, and Vidya Chaitanya took a scrubbing brush and soap and started scrubbing his forehead and scrubbing his chest like anything. And it wouldn't come off. It would go away and come back stronger. It would go away and come back stronger. Eventually, everyone was astonished. This indeed is the mercy of Gauridas Pandit. And he explained this, that actually, although it may appear, Shamananda explained, it may appear that we're in different rasas, it's not the case at all. That the mood of Gauridas Pandit is to enhance the Madhurya Ras. So everything was kind of settled to a certain point, although prior to that, Vidya Chaitanya was very angry before this took place, before the settlement came about. He even beat his disciple very strong. The Mahants had to hold him back. He was so determined, you've got to be in Sakyaras. It was a kind of a loving beating. In fact, Shyamananda was very pleased when he was beaten by his spiritual master. He said, this is proof now, my spiritual master is really accepting me. He was feeling blessed to be beaten by his spiritual master. But the story goes on. So it looked like all was settled, and Vidya Chaitanya stayed a little longer there in Vrindavan. And then one day they went to see Rasalila performance somewhere in Burj. And consequently, as this rasa dance performance was going on, Hridaya Chaitanya was feeling a little bit uncomfortable. He could see his disciple was becoming more and more absorbed and didn't want to, completely absorbed in another realm. And he thought, we're not on the same page. Whatever he says that this is by my mercy and he's my surrendered soul, he still was not happy with this. So afterwards, when they went back, he got upset. And as much as Shyamananda tried to console the spiritual master in terms of explaining the relationship between the rasas, Hridaya Chaitanya was very angry. He got to such an extent he started beating him again and beating him, and he had to be held back and really beat him hard. And Shyamananda was totally accepting this as his deserve. He wasn't fighting back in any way. He surrendered. My spiritual master wants to beat me. I'm fortunate or being blessed. Though he was very unhappy that he was causing this distress to his spiritual master. So that night, when Hridaya Chaitanya took rest, he had a dream. He didn't believe in dreams, so he said. But this night he had a dream, and Lord Chaitanya suddenly appeared before him. And Lord Chaitanya had blood rolling down his form. His cloth was stuck hard to his body, like this. And Hridaya Chaitanya said, "My Lord, what has happened to you? Why are you looking like this?" And Lord Chaitanya said, "You beat me so severely. Now my body is like this." Hridaya Chaitanya realized what had happened. He immediately realized that Shyamananda was like the personification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in one sense, at least most dear to Lord Chaitanya, and that he committed a great fault in treating him like this. So immediately he came out of his dream and went to Shyamananda, and whatever, all was settled between Shyamananda and Hridaya Chaitanya. This Lord, only one other occasion do we see this, how the Lord protects his devotee in such a way. Although Shyamananda was being beaten, it's described it just like Haridas Thakur. When he was beaten in the marketplace, Lord Chaitanya placed his body on Haridas's. Similarly, in the case of Shyamananda, maybe it didn't look like it, but he actually took those beatings upon him, his own body, such as that mood and relationship between a pure devotee and the Supreme Lord. So things were settled after some time. Hridaya Chaitanya went back to Ambika Kal, and Shyamananda and the other two, Narottam and Srinivas, were sent on the first preaching mission with the books of the Goswamis, and they were stolen and so on. Shyamananda and Narottam went on to Bengal, spent some time in Keturi, the home of Narottam Das, and Shyamananda then went back to spend time with his spiritual master in Bengal and Bekakal and other places. And after a while, Hridaya Chaitanya asked Shyamananda Prabhu, "Now please, I want you to go and preach in Orissa." So he spent more or less the rest of his life preaching Krishna consciousness in Orissa, and along with Rasika, one of his servants, Rasikananda, became his primary disciple in spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the whole of Orissa. And he had many disciples, establishing temples, and so on. Important people became Vaishnavas, and very prominently he spread Krishna consciousness there in Orissa. There was Shyamananda Prabhu, an example of a real sadhu, pure sadhu. Today is his disappearance day. We pray to Shyamananda Prabhu that we may also follow in the footsteps of taking shelter of our spiritual master, tolerating whatever ups and downs may be there due to our conditioning or whatever Krishna arranges, developing those qualities of compassion and towards other living entities, mercy, tolerance, friendliness to all living entities, and so on and so forth, and all the various qualities of a Vaishnava. But the primary quality is our unflinching submission or surrender to the Supreme Lord. That we have, and that's our goal. Sadhu, one who is fixed on the goal, we try to make that a fixation in our hearts, even if there are ups and downs, misunderstandings may come in. Sometimes some friction may seem to be there, doubts may come. By fixing our consciousness on the ultimate goal, reminding us that the sadhu is one who behaves in such a way as to help us to also go on this path towards the ultimate goal. By their very words, their very behavior, their thoughts, everything about them helps us, if we want to take advantage of it, to progress on the spiritual platform. So I'll finish there on today's topic, and we'll carry on with the same verse probably on Wednesday, if not next Saturday, if we're allowed to by Krishna's grace, to continue this meditation. And we thank you all very, very much for joining us today, to give us this opportunity to remember something. It may not be pure or perfectly remembered, but at least something about the pure, about the great, about the merciful, tolerant sadhus, others who give their association to us. It's only by their mercy can we ever wake up from our dream and come to our real senses. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so if there are any questions or comments. A good idea, stop moving things around. I'm not sure who's moving things around out there. That means somebody is on. No, was not muted. Saradia Mataji in Hamilton, happy birthday, Saradia. Oh, glorious to Srila Prabhupada, Saradia, and Srinivas, one of the close associates of Shyamananda Prabhu. It's his wife's birthday today. Hare Krishna, Saradia. May you focus your whole day in pure devotional service. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any more questions? It is appropriate to remind the devotees on their birthday that although that's very wonderful that we have our birthday, so to speak, of our body, but on that birthday we should try to make it, so we don't have to spend another lifetimes in this material world. That we use this lifetime for going back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Anything? Can we still? Who's this? Somebody has an artist. I don't know who it is. Somebody has an artist. Can we all still consider him a sadhu? Well, that's a question which you could say needs a little qualification. Everyone in the material world has an artist. That's why I say that's the nature of being in the material world. So just because everyone has an artist, that doesn't make a sadhu. However, sometimes a devotee may still, always a devotee still carries an artist, but if his primary objective, if his primary goal is to serve the spiritual master come what may, and to serve Krishna come what may, according to the words of Krishna, that a devotee who is his unflinching dedication, even though there are sometimes some impediments are there, some misbehaviors there, previous conditioning sometimes, but his primary target is not purposely, it's just due to past conditioning. He's not purposely trying to be offensive or to maintain his material desires, but the pressure sometimes is great, and sometimes it comes out accidentally. It's described as a behavior which is not considered to be saintly in of itself. But his primary characteristic is dedication to the Lord. As I say, it's a question which needs qualification according to the situation. But in principle, yes, that person is still considered sadhu. That doesn't mean to justify ill behavior, but sometimes on occasion it may appear something against some principle or whatever it may be. We read the other day in the class that Prabhupada said that sometimes we see devotees, for instance, are smoking still. I'm not talking of initiated devotees, although that sometimes happens. And Prabhupada said that's not the most important thing. That will go away in due course of time. The most important thing is to keep focusing on devotional service. That makes one sadhu. Keep focusing. One goes back again straight away back to devotional service. If we see ourselves going straight away back to Maya, that's something different. But a sadhu, even though there is some fault, goes straight back in a repentant heart, a humble heart, straight back to devotional service again. So it's still considered saintly, even if not on the highest platform, but still considered to be saintly. What's the next one?
How do we apply the 26 characteristics?
Do we apply the 26 characteristics of Vaishnava in school and professional life? According to Prabhupada described, I don't know if we read it just now, maybe we did it, that it's not really, practically speaking, all the qualities, all the various practices, etc., are not, it's not that every single one is going to manifest always in all situations in the neophyte stage particularly. We little common sense, what is practical, what is appropriate to the time, place, and circumstance. The primary one should be remembered, that is to see things in relation to Krishna, to try to act for the pleasure of Krishna, to surrender to Krishna. Other qualities may not always be so easy when we're interacting with the material energy, seeing everyone equally a friend to everyone. We can theorize, but in reality, it may not always be so an easy manifestation, something to impose artificially in our lives, poetic, expert, this thing, that thing. We try our best. We have air conditioning. We just try to engage whatever air conditioning is to serve the primary principle of service to Krishna, Guru and Krishna. We try to apply whatever it is we can in that direction. And if there are faults or mistakes, if our intention is sincere, they're not really faults or mistakes. They're just some reason, sort of like due to our previous conditionings, etc. They're like token conditionings there, which may still affect our relationships, may still affect our behavior to some extent. But as much as possible, a natural Vaishnava would always be manifesting these characteristics in all situations. When we're not on that platform of spontaneity, then sometimes these characteristics do not manifest. And even one who's on the highest platform may not always appear to manifest them. He may not seemingly show mercy to a certain person because of the nature of the person, and they may misinterpret it. But in their heart of hearts, they have nothing but good wishes to every living entity. They see nothing but how to help this person to become Krishna conscious, although externally it may not seem. We're not on that platform. Therefore, sometimes we get carried away or whatever it may be. But again, the primary thing is we try to bring it back to Krishna consciousness, bring it back to Krishna consciousness. So otherwise, a Vaishnava will more and more, by their good qualities, as they grow in devotional service, even in work, in home dealings, in professional business, they will be there. But sometimes, due to the fact you have to execute a particular activity, you have to do things which may not be completely complementary with the spiritual principles. Sometimes in one's material dealings. As much as possible, they should be complementary. Next one.
There's Srinivasi.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Your service is to Srila Prabhupada's mission. He's our Acharya, he's our Siksha Guru, he's our Guru, he's our guide, he's our life and soul, he's our connection to the Parampara. He is our connection. So our only principle is to try to understand what Srila Prabhupada wants, what would please him, what would please Krishna, and try our best to be pleasing to the pure devotees of the Lord. That's not an artificial thing. It comes about by trying to fulfill their instruction, and then by their mercy, the attitude will become purified. It's the attitude, it's the state of consciousness within which is pleasing to Krishna. Not just the external activities, even the efforts to try to behave properly. All these things are meant to be helpful to develop or awaken the pleasing, the favorable attitude within, the attitude within our hearts, realizing that I exist for the pleasure of Krishna. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Next one.
Chapter 12 says that if you take up to Krishna consciousness, then you automatically, all good qualities are developed.
Yeah, you completely surrender. Absolute surrender, then the quality will absolutely manifest. But as surrender is partial, so you get partial effect. But as one progresses, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Krishna cleanses the heart. He gives us the understanding to the degree that we're worshipping him with love. Right now we're worshipping or engaged in service under the direction of one who worships Krishna with love. So we may not be exactly on that platform, but that's the principle of coming to that platform. That we don't kind of like, it's not like a demanding thing. Devotees' only desire is to be unalloyed, to attain unalloyed devotional service to the Guru and Krishna. And it's not like if these qualities don't manifest, then I'm going to give up or something. They manifest by the grace of Krishna, who cleanses the heart of all the dirty things. And naturally, that good qualities, which are constitutional to one who is a pure devotee, will start to grow. A degree of purity, degree of surrender, degree of, and then ultimately mercy of the Lord. Next one.
Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. We hear that Madhurya Ras is the topmost bow. Each devotee may have a natural tendency toward a spiritual, particular bow. So, should they continue serving on that mode or strive to be Madhurya bow?
Krishna. Wow. We're on a high level here. We're not even on the level of Dasyaras right now. But we're not even on the level of Dasyaras right now. At our level, when practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the concentration, although we may hear, we have to know what the goal is. We don't know what our particular part, you could say, in that realm is. We may have temporary attractions to this, that, and the other, or maybe they're permanent. We don't know, but we can't say that they're confirmed as and until the time comes. Right now, we're trying to establish ourselves in the mood of dasya. And even that dasya is on the platform of this particular world. This is sadhana. It's on the platform of sadhana. We're practicing to this foundational aspect. Dasya is there in all the rasas. Of course, Shantaras is another thing. There's even a Shantaras, which is Dasya too in the spiritual realm, of course. But the principle is that we're trying to foundation. Focus on your foundation. We don't worry about these things at this point in time, as and until Rupa Goswami says, the heart is completely purified when it's above the modes of nature, when there's no more affinity for material sense gratification. Only then is it possible that the actual real, spontaneous, natural attraction to serving Krishna in a particular rasa, other than Dasya rasa, can manifest. So that will take some time and some purification. So we'll not go down that avenue right now, but just leave it at that. Focus on our Dasya Ras, on our service to the spiritual masters and Krishna, and that is the perfection. Everything will be revealed in due course of time. As the heart becomes cleansed, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadhu Kavanai Shravanadi Shrichiti Karyudai. By Shravananadi, by under the direction of a pure devotee, we hear and chant, we render service. As the sun rises in the morning, everything becomes clear. Similarly, love of Godhead is not something we get from an outside source, it's already there, but it's awoken. It wakes up as our Shravananadi, our hearing and chanting, our devotional service becomes pure and pure and pure. And it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And in due course of time, these beyond our present, Atakshi Krishna Namadina Babadvai Mikri Seva Mukhi Jivadoshaya Mevaspratyada. With our present conditioned senses, we can't possibly be able to understand these transcendental interactions. We may hear about them, but we cannot relish or enter into them. There may be some kind of relish, but not the real one. Or enter into these pastimes or understand the transcendental nature of our relationship with Krishna. Right now, Krishna is manifest in the external form of spiritual master who is giving us this opportunity to develop Dasya Ras and in a pure way. And when our Dasya Ras becomes completely pure, everything will be revealed. And that comes through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So we're concentrating on that right now. Next one.
It's very difficult for me to absolve
thoughts of Krishna because of my work nature. What's the minimum I can do to feel guilty and hard in myself? Bhaktivinoda Thakur said for householders who are working with families, every spare moment they should try to engage in hearing and chant about Krishna. It's obvious when we're at work we get carried away with the passionate modes around us, sometimes the modes of ignorance, sometimes a little mode of goodness, but usually passion. And we get affected by it, and we almost forcibly have to act according to it in most cases, not all, but most. So as naturally one will forget Krishna, one's absorbed in one's particular work, but what is the purpose of that work? To maintain one's family. What's the purpose of the family? To give them a chance to become Krishna conscious. What's the purpose of work? Probably to get paid and sustain one's lives, and to use whatever we can in Krishna's service. So behind the scene, there is a connection between our work, our family, our devotion, the money and everything else. We try to see the connection between all of these, how it can be connected to the service of Krishna. So as much as possible, even though we're carried away doing this and that, working in offices, working in factories, working wherever we are, schools, whatever it may be, in hospitals, etc., as much as possible, trying to see how all of that is Krishna's energy, how all of that can be connected to Krishna, how all of that can actually enhance even our devotional practices. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, whatever spare time we have, we have to try to utilize that hearing and chanting. And another practical, you can say mechanical aspect, is trying to be a little more time in the morning. It's hard when you've got little kiddies, but as much as possible in the morning before we go to work or school or whatever we're doing, we try to hear, chant, and remember Krishna as much as we can. And that will help to sustain the memory of seeing how everything is related to Krishna during the day. You can't sit in the office like when the boss is asking you to do something. You say, I haven't finished my 16 rounds yet. I'll be another hour yet finishing my rounds. You cannot do that. You can't say, oh, I really need to read right now. I'm really spaced out. I need to read the Bhagavad Gita right now. You cannot do that. You may be able to do it a little bit when time is appropriate. You have to have common sense to know what is to do. But as much as possible, it's good to have little reminders during the day when we're at work or college or wherever it is, to try to remind us of Krishna, not get totally carried away in the passionate modes which we're surrounded by, as much as we can. Hare Krishna, next one.
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada set standards for daily worship, which we try to maintain. How can we improve our qualities, for example, in the daily kitchen, to encourage devotees not to take issues as fault, but see if as our service is Srila Prabhupada to serve cooperatively to service Lord's pleasure. How do we do it? Well, we try to show the example ourselves, if you know what to do. That's one thing. Depending on our position, if we're in a position of authority, so to speak, which we've been asked to do it, then we have to find out the way to encourage others to also come up to a particular standard. There can be istagostis, meetings, which are supposed to help to discuss these things, especially when it comes to deity worship. Srila Prabhupada established this as an important limb of our Krishna consciousness movement, necessary for devotees to come to the platform of purity and cleanliness. If a person absolutely, either insists or cannot come up to it, then one has to reflect on it. Is this the best service for them? It may or may not be. Everyone can be trained, should be. If they're going to be doing daily worship, then there has to be training there. There has to be a certain standard. But it's not like bang straight away. It has to be done with love and care, consideration, example, and education, and so on and so forth. There should be some structure in place to help devotees to understand more about it than just you do it because that's the way it is. But the benefits and the reasons and so on should be discussed. And sometimes devotees are not meant for that service. Prabhupada said not everyone's a Brahmin. Not everyone has that inclination. They may be better situated digging the garden. Maybe not to say a Brahmin can't dig the garden either. But, that may be a better service for them. Maybe more at home, and they won't commit some of the offenses which are a little bit, there's a lot of them in daily worship. So we don't want to commit offenses in our service. We don't want to put devotees in a situation where they're engaging in a way that they're committing offenses knowingly or unknowingly will also become. But at time and circumstances, sometimes in emergency, it is a little difficult. Sometimes we all know that. But still, the effort should be there to establish a standard, and devotees should try to be educated and kindly, lovingly encouraged to come up to that standard.
Last question is, thank you for this class. How can I practice tolerance in
Tolerance. You come and live in the temple for a few weeks. And the association of devotees, Krishna works through devotees. He works through his material energies. We have to tolerate so many things. But tolerate, it depends. Again, it's like one of those questions which it may be extreme situations and it may just be a kind of a little one. It depends. And in between, it's by the mercy of Krishna that we can tolerate. You can pray for his mercy that we can. And what is tolerance? There's tolerance and there's non-tolerance. Some situations are not to be tolerated. And Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, he said that, yes, we shouldn't tolerate. It's like we were hearing last night, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not tolerate Mukunda Dattas going to assemblies of persons who are impersonalists or engaged in material activities. He got very upset with him. He said, I don't want to see you again because I can't tolerate somebody who on one hand puts his hand on my foot and on the other hand puts his hand around my neck. He said, you were beating me with a stick. He called him a straw stick devotee. One hand he had a straw in his mouth, the other hand his stick beating him, Lord Chaitanya, because he's going and associating with people who are averse to devotional service. So there are different levels. So Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said we should use this anger, intolerance, whatever you want to call it, in the service, preaching Krishna consciousness against those who are envious, those who are misleading people away from Krishna, those who are absorbing people in mundane sense gratification. How we do that, that's a detail, but the principle is there, that opulence, or that opulence, if you want to call it that, but that potency of and intolerance, which manifests sometimes as anger, can be utilized. Then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said one thing. He said, yes, we should utilize it against those who are inimical, when he was asked. But first of all, I have to look at my heart and see who is inimical. And when I look at my heart, I see no one more envious of Krishna than me. I am the most envious. He said like that. So to whom do I use this anger? I tolerate my own nonsense, but I don't tolerate others. This is often the case. I'm right. Oh, yes. But you're wrong. I don't tolerate. So a little bit of self, we call it, looking inside a little bit there. And that was his on and on. He would emphasize this. When faults in others misguide or disturb us, look within. Look within our own hearts. Look at the root. Don't just look at the externals all the time. Not tolerate. Look in our own heart. Maybe this is a lesson Krishna is teaching us within our heart. Something in the way we see things, something attachment, something there, something which is, could be purified within our own consciousness of how we see it. Automatically, tolerance, intolerance, they become, they're no longer issues. Anger, all these things. It's just a manifestation, unless it's properly utilized, a manifestation of some impurity within our own hearts and so on. So the essence is to chant the holy name very, very carefully, the practical lesson. Chant the holy name very, very carefully. Hear the sound of the holy name. Take shelter of the holy name. And don't just mechanically chant, but try to hear the sound of Krishna, Rama. Have faith in the holy name. Take shelter of the holy name. All these inebrieties or confusions will step by step be cleared up. Once the heart becomes cleansed, then there's no more clouds, no more dirt. You don't see dirt the same like we do now. We see dirt. But as the heart becomes cleansed, Prabhupada said that because of your dirty heart, you're seeing dirt. Clean the heart, clean the heart. This is surrendering to Krishna. This is this one-pointed surrender. is taking shelter of the holy name. Here in Krishna Kirtan, especially the holy name. This is the secret, is that Krishna cleanses the heart. It's not that it's a mechanical thing. It's by the mercy of Krishna, the heart becomes cleansed. But we have to do our part. We have to cultivate this faith and this effort to hear the holy name of Krishna if we're really serious about this. Otherwise, we could never conquer over intolerance, anger, greed, lust, all these different, enemies which continually capture our attention. We have to take shelter of the holy name. The holy name is the only way. I guess there's no more. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. It's up. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Well, we'd like to thank all the devotees. Our next session is on Wednesday at 6 o'clock France time. And we hope to see, as far as I know, that's the next one. And we really look forward to seeing some of you, if not all of you, different time zones, I know. But thank you so much for being with us this morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is. And we hope we'll see you again very soon. And we hope everyone's maintaining and progressing in their Krishna consciousness. We're praying to Srila Prabhupada, everybody, to take shelter of his lotus feet. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very, very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, Rasika, you open up the mutes. Hari Bol, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to you. May you never take Hare Krishna, dear Saradha. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Mara. See you next Saturday.